right, everyone. Thanks again for listening to the TF podcast. I'm Jonathan G. Blanco. I'm super excited right now because I am chatting with Mati Greenspan. He is one of the most in up to date with what's going on in the economy and been paying attention to the quantitative easing that's been happening and really been talking about it for a while before it started to take fold. And I'm really excited to have him here and welcome him to the show and get his point of view. So let's go ahead and meet Mati. How you doing, man?
Hi. Well, having a lot of fun over here. We're at day 4 of full quarantine. So I've got 2 children with me at the moment. The third one is sleeping right now. Just watching the markets. It's quite exciting times. Just trying to keep on top of all of the news that's coming out. Things are crazy at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely crazy times. The markets are continually going down. I just got a notification on my phone that they're going down right now. Why don't you do us a favor and just introduce us to you for my listeners that might not be familiar with you, or just kind of to level set the conversation.
Sure. My name is Mati Greenspan. I'm the founder of Quantum Economics, which is a project for analysis, advisory, and money management. We have an extreme focus on, as you mentioned, central banks and macroeconomics as well as crypto assets. The former senior analyst of eToro, which you might have heard of, and the author of a book called The Complete Guide to FinTech Investing, and I'm a licensed portfolio manager in the European Union. That's my resume in a nutshell.
Yeah. So safe to say you have a fairly great understanding of what's happening right now. So, take me through really quick,
I don't think anybody does, Jonathan.
So sorry.
We are deep in uncharted territory right now.
That is fair. That is fair. So real quick before we get into the meat of what's going on today, so with your background, you had mentioned that, you were an analyst at eToro. Were you in traditional finance, I guess, before the kind of the crypto took off and Bitcoin took off, or got started, I should say?
Yeah, exactly. So I've always been into the financial markets pretty much.
Yeah.
Since I was 13. So I was working with eToro for about 6 months, and when I first heard about Bitcoin, and I instantly really took to it, and I felt like, okay, finally we've got a new form of money which is unrelated to governments.
Yeah,
a good idea.
Yeah, and I know you do things like where you have people watch your trades, or you kind of share how you trade, and people can view it. They can view it for what it's worth, of course, right? What they want to do with it. They can make their own decisions. And so, and then real quick, tell me about your company that you started not too long ago.
Yeah, so quantum economics, there's 3 aspects: it's analysis, advisory, and money management. The analysis, first of all, actually, this isn't really public information yet, but the team is together. I've previously announced my collaboration with Mr. Charles Bouvard, who is senior contributor at Forbes. He's an independent advisor at Moody's Analytics and is the president and founder of the Financial Writers Society. He is the VP of content at Quantum Economics.
Excellent.
And we've now onboarded 4 analysts from around the world who are really top notch. I mean, these are people that have vast experience in writing about financial markets and stuff like that.
That's excellent. Well, great. Well, let's dive right into the market. So, I've been following you on Twitter, and definitely have seen you voicing concern over the last several months about, just kind of what's been happening in the financial markets and basically the potential of the of the quantitative easing. I think it's amazing that you're taking this interview with your kids there too. By the way, that's great. My son might pop in here at any moment just to say anything. So I got this green screen, right, and I was doing an interview, and he comes and he's like, "Dad, how's it green there? But it's this that." And so over the weekend, it's actually a pretty fun thing to do with the kids. Over the weekend, I put different cities back there, and we chatted quite a bit.
That's cool.
So anyways, you've been kind of paying attention to the QE stuff, highlighting that for a while, and it seems like we're there, obviously, right, with the different stimulus.
We've gotten so far past there now, Jonathan. I mean, QE is small b's. So QE is monetary stimulus, right? It's basically monetary policy. This is from central banks. There's a difference between monetary policy and fiscal policy, fiscal stimulus, which is from the government, right? So central banks, they're basically the ones that are in charge of the money. They're the ones who print money. They're the ones who they do quantitative easing. Quantitative easing is all about is basically that's monetary stimulus with directly from the central banks. Fiscal stimulus is something that's a lot more difficult to implement, but can be a lot more effective in many ways.
Got it.
It's more difficult because governments are set up to be difficult to move through, like you balance the separation of powers and stuff like that. In Europe, it's damn near impossible because France might want to inject money for their citizens, for example, or Italy might want to inject money for their citizens, or Spain, and Germany can say no, because they've got a weird union. In the United States, it's all about the Republicans and the Democrats, right? The House of Representatives and Congress, and the White House. They need to all kind of agree on something, right? Which is why it's been taking so long for the president to get cash in the hands of citizens, as he's trying to do.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at really is a new world order. There are so many things that have changed from the coronavirus and the reaction to it. One of which is people working from home, like we're doing now. I'm going to get myself a studio.
Yeah. No worries.
Just a second.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, Mati's right now taking this interview with his kids. He has 3 young kids, so super appreciate him taking the time to chat with us as well. Definitely something we could all relate to right now with the majority of us working from home, if not all of us, and how we do things.
Seriously.
Hey there.
Yeah. Yeah. So the military apparently, I just heard, is going to be moving in on Thursday. Wow. And shutting down everything.
Holy smokes.
Yep. So that's where we're at. Well, actually, what's interesting now is that how economics is changing. So we've seen so much of monetary stimulus from the central banks, but now we're moving into a whole new era of fiscal stimulus, and we're moving into an era of helicopter money.
Yeah,
which basically means the government's just raining money down on people. In one way, I suppose it's good because you get more money in the hands of people. Rather, if somebody's printing money, it might as well go to the poor rather than to the rich, which, monetary stimulus tends to end up in the hands of bankers and people who don't necessarily need it anyways.
Right.
On the other hand, it's quite concerning because that is more than likely going to cause a lot of inflation.
Right. Because and I'm assuming that's if everybody has the same amount of cash, basically, it's like things just naturally go up. In addition to everything else, of course, right? But
right. So imagine all of a sudden everybody has $100,000 a month to spend.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're all still competing over the same amount of goods.
Right.
So the price of the goods will go up.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
That's an extreme scenario, obviously, but doesn't seem. I mean, some people have proposed that.
Yeah. 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 Because that's definitely been voiced here in the U.S. Lately on the helicopter money. That was a part of Andrew Yang's platform, of course. And then I think Mitt Romney just kind of talked about that yesterday or the day before as something that they want to make sure that they're doing.
Right. Right. Yeah, their helicopter money is already in place in Hong Kong. And it seems like they want to do it in Spain as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to be difficult for them to do it there, but as far as I see, this is the path that the world is on right now. And obviously, it's difficult to know what's going to happen next week at this point. But
And what does that mean more than? Does that mean anything more than inflation on the helicopter money? Like, as far as, and is that a country by country thing? Is that a global thing on the helicopter money? I'm assuming. Bless you. I'm assuming it's just where it's happening in that region and so forth.
Yeah, so that's going to be government implemented. So each government implements here in Israel, anybody who's been laid off because of the price of water. Large corporations, small corporations. You have to realize that the entire global economy is basically
Yeah.
last 10 years. And this is just going to, whatever companies were not doing well, I suppose, are just going to get knocked down.
Right. Right.
Retailers, for example, massive amounts of retailers across the United States who they've been able to, scrape by, given the fact that loans were cheap, right? They're able to borrow money cheaply in order to, pay their bills and stuff and keep the doors open. At this point, they're shutting down, right? They're saying they're going to shut down for 2 weeks, but first of all, no guarantee that after 2 weeks the number of cases is going to skyrocket.
Right.
Saying that that could turn into 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Yeah, and
2 months. And then at that point, it's just a permanent closure.
Right. Yeah. From what we've seen from the countries that have been, I guess, further ahead in the cases, is this isn't a couple week thing. This is definitely even a lot of people are using China as this example right now, but even China, from when it really at least became public, was what beginning of January or so, and to now, and supposedly things are slowly getting back to normal. But at the same time, I don't know that any country took the steps that China did to the extreme yet, right? And now we're starting to see that, of course. So I think it's fair to assume that a lot of these other countries, right, will take a little bit longer.
And now in Israel,
yeah, in U.S. they shut down San Francisco. Like I said, I'm in Seattle. People in Seattle actually wish they'd shut it down, which is a whole different kind of interesting type of conversation too, right? Because here you're saying is like, hey, I wish you shut it down, and for the right reasons, obviously for the health reasons and making sure that things don't happen or people get sick. But then, like, what does that do? Changing, the fatigue or the people's how people are used to essentially operating, right? So I always find that to be interesting as well.
Yeah.
So the stock market's been crushed over the last, call it, week or so, right? Like, what was it? I think what did it start coming down at? Like about 28,000 or so, and now I think we're at 20,000 or so, 20,000 and change.
About the Dow,
Sorry, yeah, the Dow Jones, right?
Yeah.
And I'd love to understand from your perspective, why does getting stimulus from the government, or sorry, essentially the Fed cutting rates, why is that equaling the Dow going down further? Like, what's the disconnect that the Fed themselves or the people that are making those decisions are having in making those decisions, and instead of saying like, hey, like if we cut this very likely would create more insecurity in the market. I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, so right now we're looking at probably the fastest stock crash in history, right? Even the Great Depression, it didn't come down this quickly. And I think that what the Fed is doing, I mean, it's kind of the right moves, right? But even they can't stop this.
Yeah.
We're talking about mass closures. You're talking the economy was running at kind of full speed before all this started. I mean, we just got the jobs numbers from February, and they looked fantastic, right? So kind of we're in a place where everybody's employed and businesses are doing well. I mean, obviously with the lives that you mentioned earlier, but unemployment was at like a 50-year low, right? Inflation was stable and all of that. And then you have this, and this is just a monkey wrench thrown into the system. I mean, everything, life as we know it has changed.
Totally.
I mean, significantly. And people don't know whether things are ever going to be the same.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, the stock market is doing its best to reflect that.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting because there's no, in the past, sure, there's been these economic factors or, some sort of global threat being like war, things of that. But, the fact that, hey, there's very much this virus that is also preventing commerce in addition to the financial reasons. Totally see that. And so what do you think, like what should people be doing right now when they think about these things? It seems like it's, if you're, and we won't take this as financial advice, of course, but it seems like if you are holding your stocks or so forth, you probably shouldn't be selling them at this point. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't claim to be or understand that that side of things. But what do you tell people to do right now, friends or family or so forth?
So everything we've seen so far is kind of the initial shock and panic of the markets, right? It's basically the initial impact. The initial impact doesn't seem to be over. In the meantime, we have some volatility, and we can trade that volatility. If you're holding something long term, you need to reevaluate. If you're holding something that is going to be impacted heavily by this virus, which is just about everything, then yeah, you should be considering closing out those positions, because you don't know if how long it will take to get that value back. If you feel like, look, and it's possible that, the world shuts down for 2 months, and then, things come back to normal. It's just exactly the way they were before. Amazing. But we also might be at a timeline where things shut down, and then we have to really start again from scratch.
Yeah.
Right? In which case, it could take decades to see the same valuations that we saw a month ago. So if you're asking me if you're holding a specific stock, I wouldn't be able to tell you this. My timeline is several decades out.
Yeah, it seems like it goes back to what you're talking about too, about, hey, like the world is changing, right? So in that changed world, what's a company that would survive it? Kind of to your point, right? And so perhaps that's kind of helps with the evaluation there as well. So, let's move on to just like the Bitcoin and crypto markets overall. So, there's been some debates or discussions on Twitter, for example, about like, Bitcoin is not a safe haven, or Bitcoin is not, performing the way it quote unquote should, because some people believe that if the stock market went down, that Bitcoin would in turn go up. To me, it makes sense why it would go down, of course, because if people are liquidating, you want to, increase your cash position. I'd love your thought and an analysis on those different points of view that people say.
Yeah, sure. Look, I mean, even people who would ask me several months ago what would happen to Bitcoin prices, the answer was that it would go down.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody was, and if they were, probably they were ill informed. But I don't think that
Yeah.
anybody was really saying that Bitcoin would skyrocket in value in the case of the financial crisis. I don't think that's good. I don't think that that's a valid narrative, or ever was.
Yeah.
What's happening at the moment is we're seeing mass liquidations of all financial assets. So the stock market's not the only ones to take it on the chin. Just about everything with value is heavily impacted. Commodities, oil, for example. I mean, oil is a different story right now because you have a production war going on between Russia and Saudi Arabia. But silver and gold and copper, just about all commodities are taking it on the chin right now. And that's what's happening. People just, anything that they can do, they're just moving it into cash.
Yeah.
And that's why U.S. dollars and Japanese yen, they're the biggest winners at the moment in the market, because people are just, everybody all at once moving to cash. Now, you can kind of ride that trend while it lasts. We don't know how long it's going to last because, like I said, we don't really know when the initial shock of the coronavirus will start to dissipate. Oh, the dog's head fell off. There we go. But at some point, the dust will settle.
Yeah.
At some point, we're going to get a more clear picture of what the world is going to look like post-coronavirus.
Totally.
And at that point, people are going to be sitting, not only companies who had access to cheap loans and blah, 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 but people who had access to helicopter money. Everybody in the world is going to be sitting on cash.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the question is, what are they going to do? They're going to want to put that cash to work.
Right. Right.
Right. And at that point, they think that we'll have some really amazing investment opportunities. But how long will it take?
Yeah.
A week, a month, a year, a decade.
And is it true that when when essentially the markets recede on gold and silver and so forth, are they some of the first to get money back into them, or is that true or no?
So I think that Bitcoin, gold, and silver are kind of good hedges against inflation because they are limited supply, supply is strictly limited. Real estate as well, right? I think these are kind of good things that can hold their value more than other things, especially while it's
Yeah. And so in Israel, like you said, you're just mentioning that the government, or sorry, the military is coming in. Is Israel a place where real estate holds its value stronger than most places? What's real estate like there, or overall? The reason I ask that is I'm curious is like how people think through in Israel, for example, of in a time like this? Are they putting into real estate? Are they holding real estate? It seems like real estate is typically one of the latter things to go. Um, depending, of course, because of the time it takes to move and so forth. Not physically move, but like to move the capital and so forth.
Yeah, well, real estate is one of the most illiquid investments you can make,
Yeah.
but also one of the most solid on just about every front. Right? You have something, parcel of land, or a building, right, that will end up surviving through whatever happens. It's really kind of an amazing investment on that front, and it will hold its value no matter what happens.
Yeah.
That's underlying the economy, the value of that real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. Awesome. So yeah, it's definitely pretty wild and crazy times. And do you think this would have all happened if there wasn't the coronavirus threat? Like, would we have still seen a market recession? Perhaps not at this level of impact, but we were headed this way, correct? Or weren't we coming?
That's a really good question, Jonathan. That's And I don't know. I mean, people have been saying that the markets have been overvalued for a long time, but yet they continue to go up. And part of the reason is because the Fed continues to pump money into them. But I think the market has been searching for kind of a catalyst to push it down 10% to 20%.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we're down 30% and no bottom in sight. So obviously this catalyst is unlike any that the world has ever seen before.
Right.
I do think that if there was some kind of a mild shock, that we could have seen a 10%, 15% correction, which would have then caused investors to simply buy back in at lower levels. But no, the world wasn't heading this way anyway.
Definitely not at this capacity or at this level, right?
Yeah, this is a complete game changer on every front.
Right. And, you seem like someone that'd kind of be versed in, or you're probably well versed in like historical finance. How does this compare to, what we've seen in other downturns, recessions, from your understanding, how does what we're going through right now compare to that?
It doesn't. This is the worst by far ever.
Wow.
I believe we were talking. We don't know yet how bad it's going to be. The VIX has been tracking since 1991. It's now at record high, so this is far blown past what we saw in 2008 already.
Yeah.
People keep comparing it to 1987, where the stocks crashed pretty hard, but already we've broken several of those metrics. And like I mentioned earlier, even the Great Depression stocks have not come down this quickly. They came down pretty quickly back then. This is just something the world has never seen before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Which then means that we how we come out of it, we probably won't see that or haven't seen that likely before either. Then, which is also kind of crazy and interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Last, I'll go ahead and wrap this up so you can get back to to your day and so forth. So I do appreciate you taking the time. But the two kind of last things I want to talk about real quick is just one more thing about finance, and then kind of go a little bit on the coronavirus type conversation as well. And so when it comes to where we're at on the financial side of things, what type of events do you think need to take place for a sense of normalcy? Is it just a slow and steady path? Does something happen? Is it like an equal change of positivity or something like that makes things get back to where people feel comfortable, or is it just a wait out? We just have to wait things out, and it's a slow and steady, right? There's that saying like that markets go down like in elevators and they climb like stairs or something like that, right?
Yeah. Well, if we get so the indicator that we need to watch is the virus statistics, right? We need to see a leveling off of the number of cases. I mean, so far, the numbers regarding coronavirus have been quite small.
Yeah.
Obviously, there is a lot. There is a lot to be fearful of, and there's a lot we just don't know about this virus because it's so new. And the rate of infection, obviously, is quite dangerous. But so far, we're looking at 8,000 casualties, which is just unfortunate, but it's nowhere near the 500,000, quarter of a million, 500,000 that die from influenza every year.
Yeah.
That said, it does seem like the measures being taken right now to counteract the virus will be in place at least until the numbers start leveling out.
Right.
So, in order to understand when this might be over, we'll need to see those numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that leads me into the last thing I want to talk to you about, was just the coronavirus itself. And you've kind of alluded to this throughout the conversation, but what has it been like in Israel overall? How did Israel respond to it initially? And, what's it been like for you and your family during this
time? The response here has been exceptional. I mean, we closed our borders a while back already. Now going into full quarantine. It's just, I think that things are crazy for everybody these days. I was kind of ahead of the curve. I mean, I've been working from home since November, so
yeah.
There's that advantage, but it's a bit crazy that the kids aren't going to school anymore. So far, it's not much different than when the family just has a cold or whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody's at home anyways. That's, we've been through that, so there is a frame of reference for me anyways. But the fact that the knowledge that this is going to last for at least another 2 weeks, probably more, it's a bit difficult, I guess. I mean, it's good to spend time with everybody, but you get claustrophobia. But look, some people go to war, they fight on foreign shores. We got to sit on the couch.
Right. Yeah, that's your civic duty.
Right.
Have people who live in Israel been fairly responsive or responsible, would you say? Like, in the US, I can say for the most part, people have been very irresponsible. What is people's response as a kind of a society? How has that been?
Yeah, nobody's fighting for toilet paper over here, I can say.
Yeah.
One thing that we got going.
Yeah.
We have some of the best medical professionals in the world working on the vaccine already, estimates that we could have one within a month even. It's as far as essentials are concerned, I mean, food, water, internet, I don't think that we've got anything to fear for over here.
That's good. That's good. Well, yeah, we'll have to see how things go. Last question for you is, anything that you want to leave people with to think about, or a question that you want to ask them that they can kind of think about throughout their day?
Oh, boy.
What should people be thinking about after they're talking?
Think about how to stay sane during these quarantine times. Think about that, and think about how the world might be different when it's all over.
Yeah.
And come subscribe to the Quantum Economics newsletter, because get a lot of good insight there as well.
Yeah. What are the best ways that people can follow you, connect with you, subscribe, and so forth?
Twitter, just about every random thought that goes through my head throughout the day, that's going to be on Twitter, LinkedIn for a more professional crowd. And on our website, obviously, we've got a whole range of services. The QE newsletter is completely free, so you can subscribe. It's coming every day in the email and is read by journalists in all of the biggest financial publications. And if you want to learn about trading, technical analysis, fundamental analysis, we've got a full course, which is quite reasonably priced if you're sitting at home and you want to learn how to trade the markets. It's a great way to start.
Definitely.
Yeah, explore the website. You'll find a lot of great stuff there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, Mati, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Hope you stay safe and sane, and look forward to continue to follow you and hear what you have to say as things progress. And I'm sure we'll want to chat with you at some point in the future as well, and kind of catch up and see how things have evolved and changed for you.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thanks, man. We'll talk soon.
Bye for now.